Hello and welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are tackling a subject that is, it's essentially the guilty pleasure of the human race.
That's a good way to put it.
I say guilty because almost every single one of us does it. And I mean, let's be honest, almost every single one of us feels a little bit slimy immediately after.
It's the universal social lubricant.
Yeah.
And maybe the universal social irritant, too.
It is. We are talking about gossip. And look, before you check out, because you think this is going to be an hour of us discussing celebrity breakups or, who said what in the break room, let me just stop you.
Please do.
Because the stack of research we have today is, and I don't use this word lightly, it's mind-bending. We're looking at this comprehensive overview that pulls from evolutionary psychology, medieval history, complex sociology, and some extremely heavy religious ethics.
It really runs the gamut. And I think the goal here, our mission, is to completely reframe how we see this behavior. Because we usually just dismiss gossip as idle trash talk.
Right. It's what you do when you're bored.
Exactly. It's what you do when you have nothing better to do. But the research suggests it is actually a highly sophisticated mechanism. It's a tool for survival, a weapon for power, and in a very, very literal sense, the glue that holds human society together.
Which is a massive claim for something that my mother explicitly told me was rude and low class.
Well, your mother wasn't wrong about the rude part, socially speaking. But she was, let's say, missing the biological and anthropological utility of it. I mean, the argument is, if we didn't gossip, we might not even be here as a species.
Okay, now that is the headline I want to explore. Gossip, the reason we aren't extinct. So, the mission for this deep dive is to move past the guilt, past the shame, and really look at the mechanics. Why are we wired to do it? How did the word evolve from something holy, and that's a spoiler alert, to something petty? And can we actually function without it?
It's a heavy question. And honestly, it challenges a lot of our basic moral assumptions.
It really does. But I have to be honest with you before we even start. I love a little tea.
Spill in the tea.
Exactly. I try to be high-minded. I really, really do. But if someone leans in and lowers their voice and says, "You will not believe what happened to Dave," my pulse spikes. I lean in. It's purely instinctual.
And that pulse spike, that little jolt of excitement, that's pure biology. That isn't a character flaw. That's an evolutionary trigger firing in your brain. We're going to find out that your brain is actually hardwired to enjoy that moment. In fact, it prioritizes it.
Okay, so I'm not a bad person. I'm just a successful primate. I will take that. I can live with that.
You are a very successful primate.
But let's start at the beginning, or actually way, way back in the dictionary, because I was reading through the source material on the etymology of the word gossip, and I genuinely thought there was a typo in our notes. I thought someone had made a mistake.
It's one of the most surprising origin stories in the entire English language. It's a total head-turner.
The word God is in there.
It is. It's right there at the start. If you go back to Old English, the root word is godsibb.
Godsibb. Okay, break that down for me.
Right. So let's break that down philologically. You have God, obviously the deity, and then you have sib. Sib is an Old English word meaning kin or relative or relationship. It's actually where we get our modern word sibling.
No way. So if I'm translating this literally, gossip means god sibling or like a god relative.
Precisely. That's exactly what I meant. Originally, a godsib had absolutely nothing to do with spreading rumors or idle talk. It was a noun, not a verb. It referred to a specific person.
And what person was that?
A sponsor at a baptism.
A godparent.
A godparent. So this was a title of incredible honor.
Of the highest honor. It designated a spiritual kinship. If you are my godsib, you are my spiritual family. You are the person I trusted with my child's soul. And by extension, the word came to mean a very, very close friend, someone you trusted with your soul, essentially.
So how on earth do we get from person I trust with my soul to person who talks trash behind my back? I mean, that is a tragic fall from grace for a word. It's a huge slide. And it's a slide that takes a few hundred years, and it takes a very fascinating detour through a very specific room in the house.
Let me guess. The bedroom.
The birthing room, specifically.
Yeah.
You have to contextualize this historically. For a massive chunk of human history, before modern medicine, before sterile hospitals, childbirth was an event that was exclusively attended by women.
Right. Men were not allowed.
Absolutely not. Fathers were pacing outside, wringing their hands, but inside that room, it was a totally female domain.
Okay.
So a woman goes into labor, who does she call? She doesn't call a doctor. She calls her godsibbs. Her female relatives, her neighbors, her closest friends, these were the women who had gathered to help her deliver the baby.
It's her support network.
Her literal support
Yeah.
network. But as anyone who has been through labor or been close to it knows, it is not a quick process.
It can be days, long, agonizing, terrifying hours.
Exactly. So you have a room full of close female friends, locked away from the men for hours or even days on end.
Right.
What do they do while they wait for nature to take its course?
They talk.
They talk. They share news. They talk about their husbands, their children, the community. They advise. They comfort. They bond. This environment, this gathering of the gossips, was a support system. In the Middle Ages, calling a woman a gossip was actually a term of endearment. It was what you called your close female friend. It meant warmth, support, solidarity.
That actually sounds beautiful. It sounds like a sisterhood. Here come the gossips to help me through the hardest, most dangerous thing I'll ever do.
It was a sisterhood, a powerful one. But this is where the sociology and the power dynamics come in. Because whenever you have a marginalized group, in this case women in a patriarchal society gathering in private, sharing information that the dominant group men cannot hear,
It makes the dominant group nervous.
it creates intense anxiety in the dominant group.
So the men casing outside aren't just worried about the baby, they're worried about what is being said about them inside that locked room.
Exactly. They're thinking, what are they plotting in there? What secrets are they sharing? Language evolves to reflect social power dynamics. And around the 16th century, we see the meaning of gossip start to shift.
So the 1500s, the Tudor era.
Yes. The word shifts from describing the person, the supportive friend, the godparent, to describing a type of person. And the connotation just curdles. It starts to mean someone who delights in idle talk, a newsmonger, a tattler, a woman who talks too much.
And it becomes gender-coded. It becomes a female trait.
Heavily, almost exclusively. By the 16th century, gossip is almost always applied to women. It becomes a caricature. You have the scold, the fishwife, the gossip. It was a way of demonizing female solidarity by framing their private supportive conversations as something trivial, or worse, malicious.
That is such a crucial reframe. It didn't start negative. It went from spiritual kin to annoying blabbermouth almost entirely because men were nervous about what women were saying when they weren't around.
That is the prevailing linguistic and sociological theory, yes. And then, as we get into the 19th century, the term extends even further. It stops being just about the person and starts referring to the conversation itself, the act of gossiping.
And didn't Shakespeare have a hand in this? I feel like he's always involved when words change meaning in English.
He's always in the mix. The verb to gossip first appears in Shakespeare's work. He helps cement that transition from a noun, a person, to an action. But the key insight here, the thing to really hold on to, is that the history of the word gossip is in many ways the history of female friendship being rebranded as a social vice.
That puts a whole different spin on it. It really does. But, okay, even if the word itself was weaponized against women, the actual behavior of talking about people who aren't there, that's something everyone does. Men, women, everyone.
Absolutely. Men gossip just as much, if not more, than women. The studies are very clear on that. The style might be different, but the frequency is there.
So that brings us to the why. Why do we all do it? Because if it was just idle talk, if it had no real purpose, we would have stopped doing it a long, long time ago. Evolution is ruthlessly efficient. It doesn't keep behaviors that waste energy unless they serve a vital purpose.
And that purpose is survival, which leads us directly to Robin Dunbar.
Yes, the Dunbar number. And I love this theory because it involves monkeys and hygiene, which is always a great combination.
It's the grooming theory of language. Robin Dunbar is a British anthropologist and evolutionary psychologist, and he was looking at our primate relatives. If you look at chimps or bonobos or baboons, how do they form and maintain social bonds?
They pick lice off each other. That's the image we all have.
Right. Social grooming. They will sit there for hours, painstakingly picking through each other's fur, removing dirt, pulling out parasites. Now, it's hygienic, sure, but its primary function is social.
How so?
It releases endorphins. It lowers the heart rate. It builds trust. It's a profound act of intimacy. It says, I am making myself vulnerable to you, and I am caring for you. We are allies.
So it's the primate equivalent of a hug and a long, deep talk.
Exactly. But here's the problem. Grooming is a one-on-one activity. You can only pick lice off one monkey at a time. Maybe two if you're very skilled.
And it takes forever. I've seen them at the zoo. It's an all-day affair.
It is. So Dunbar calculated that for primates, the size of their social group is physically limited by how much time they have in the day to groom. If the group gets too big, you physically cannot groom everyone enough to maintain the bonds. The group fractures and falls apart.
Okay, so enter humans. We started forming much, much bigger groups.
Much bigger. Dunbar proposed that the natural human group size, the number of people we can maintain stable social relationships with, is about 150 people. This is the famous Dunbar's number.
I've heard of this. It's like the size of a small village or a military company.
Exactly. But then he did the math. To maintain social bonds with 150 people through physical grooming, the way our primate ancestors did, you would have to spend over 40% of your waking hours picking lice off people.
Okay, let's just pause on that number. 40%. If I'm awake for 16 hours, that's over 6.5 hours a day, every single day. Just grooming. I don't even have time to go to the gym for 45 minutes.
It's insane. It is metabolically and temporally impossible. We would starve to death because we'd be too busy grooming to hunt or gather food. So nature had a bottleneck. We needed to maintain larger groups to survive, but our primary bonding tool was too slow. Nature had to invent a shortcut, a patch update, if you will, for the social brain.
And that update was language.
Specifically, language used for gossip. Gossip is, in Dunbar's framing, vocal grooming. It allows you to service your social network exponentially faster and more efficiently.
How is it more efficient?
Well, think about it. I can talk to 3 or 4 people at once. I can't groom 3 or 4 people at once.
Right.
You can talk while you're doing other things. You can talk while you're hunting, while you're gathering food, while you're making tools. You can even talk in the dark around a campfire. It's an incredibly efficient bonding mechanism. Instead of spending an hour picking lice to say, "We are friends," I tell you a secret to say, "We are friends."
So when I lean in and tell you something juicy about someone else, biologically, I am metaphorically picking a bug off your shoulder.
Precisely. You are signaling trust, you're signaling shared interest, and you are strengthening the social bond between the two of you at the expense of a third party. And it goes even further than that. It's not just about bonding, it's about data gathering.
The reputation database.
Yes. If we could only learn about people through direct personal interaction, it would be incredibly inefficient and dangerous. If I have to wait until Bob the caveman steals my food to know that Bob is a thief, well, I've already lost my food.
Right, lesson learned the hard way.
But if you gossip to me around the fire and say, "Hey, watch out for Bob, he steals food," I now have crucial survival data without taking any personal risk. I can navigate the complex social world of our 150-person tribe much more safely.
So Gossip is basically a distributed cloud server for reputation management, a way for the tribe to keep a shared spreadsheet on who's a good person and who's a jerk.
That is a perfect modern analogy. And Dunbar's research backs this up. He and his teams analyzed conversations in public places, and they found that even today, about 65% of all human conversation is devoted to social topics.
2/3.
2/3 of everything we say is about who is doing what with whom, who is trustworthy, who is not.
That makes me feel like we haven't evolved as much as we think we have. We're just monkeys with iPhones talking about the other monkeys.
We absolutely are. But there's a specific nuance to this wiring that I found really, really disturbing in the research notes. This is the Anderson study.
Oh, this one really freaked me out. This is the study that was published in the journal Science regarding something called binocular rivalry.
Yes. This moves us from sociology and anthropology into hard neuroscience. This is about how your brain is physically built.
So help me understand the setup here, because binocular rivalry sounds like a war between my eyes.
That is essentially what it is. It's a very clever lab technique. Usually your two eyes work together perfectly to create one seamless 3D image of the world. But in a lab, you can rig it so that your left eye sees one image, say a picture of a house, and your right eye, at the exact same time, sees a totally different image, say a picture of a human face.
And the brain just can't handle seeing both at once. It can't merge them.
No, it confuses the visual cortex. So the brain does something amazing. It toggles, it suppresses one image and shows you the other. You'll see the house for a few seconds, then pop, it disappears and you see the face, then back to the house. It's a rivalry for your conscious attention.
Okay, so your brain is flipping a coin. Where does the gossip come into this?
This is the genius of the experiment. The researchers showed participants a series of faces. But before the experiment, they told the participants little bits of gossip about the people in the photos. Some of the gossip was neutral. This guy walked to the store. Some of it was positive. This guy helped an elderly woman carry her groceries. And some of it was negative. This guy threw a chair at his neighbor in a fit of rage.
Okay, so I have these positive, negative, and neutral biases loaded into my brain. Then they put me in the machine.
They put you in the machine. They show one of those faces to one eye and the picture of the house to the other eye. And they measured, very precisely, how long the brain chose to focus on each face when it was fighting with the house image for dominance.
And let me guess, the bad faces won. The chair throwers.
By a landslide. The faces that had been associated with negative gossip dominated the subject's visual consciousness for a significantly longer period of time than the faces associated with positive or neutral gossip.
Wait, I want to really make sure I get the implication of this. This isn't just, I paid more attention to the bad guy. You're saying my eyes, my brain's actual visual processing physically held the image of the bad guy longer. It refused to let it go.
Yes. Your brain prioritized the processing of the negative social threat. It literally forced you to see the bad guy more than the good guy or the neutral guy.
Yeah.
It deemed that information more important for your survival.
That is absolutely wild. It explains so much about modern media. It explains why I can't look away from a Twitter feud or a political scandal. My brain isn't being petty. It thinks it's keeping me alive.
Exactly. In the ancestral environment, knowing who the aggressor is in the tribe keeps you safe. Knowing who the nice guy is, well, that's pleasant, but it's optional information. Knowing who the chair thrower is mandatory for survival. We are biologically, fundamentally prioritized to seek out and focus on negative gossip.
So we're hardwired for negativity. That is deeply depressing, but also very validating for my media habits.
And it creates a powerful mechanism for social regulation. And this leads to this concept of the invisible fence.
Right. Because if we are all hyper-aware of who the bad guys are, that changes how everyone behaves.
Gossip enforces group morality. By talking about bad behavior, the group collaboratively defines what good behavior is. If you know that everyone in the tribe is going to whisper about you for weeks, if you cheat on your taxes or cheat on your spouse, you are less likely to do it. It's a deterrent.
So gossip it's the police, the social police.
It is a low-cost, decentralized police force. Think about it. Direct confrontation is metabolically and physically expensive.
Yeah.
If I see you stealing and I confront you directly, you might punch me in the face.
Yeah.
That's a high risk.
I could get hurt.
But if I gossip about you to the rest of the group, I can damage your reputation, get you ostracized, and correct your behavior, or at least warn everyone else, without ever risking a physical fight. It's a much safer way to enforce the rules.
That makes it sound almost noble. It sounds pro-social. I'm not being mean, I'm just protecting the tribe.
In a purely evolutionary context, it is pro-social. It serves the group. But, and here's the giant crucial pivot, when you take that Stone Age mechanism that was designed for a small, tight-knit tribe and you drop it into a modern, fluorescent-lit, open-plan office, it stops being noble and it starts being incredibly toxic.
Let's talk about the workplace battlefield, because this is where I think most of us actually encounter gossip in its most potent form. It's not about survival anymore. It's about power and politics.
The modern workplace is a unique petri dish because it's a forced social group. You don't choose your coworkers, but your livelihood, your ability to pay your rent, depends entirely on navigating them successfully.
And the source material here uses some very, very strong language. One of the experts, Peter Vajda, calls workplace gossip a form of violence.
Workplace violence.
Now, I have to push back on that a little bit.
Yep.
Violence, I mean, real violence involves fists or weapons. Calling a whisper by the water cooler violence feels like we're diluting the word, doesn't it?
I thought so too initially. It sounds like hyperbole. It sounds like something from an HR seminar. But let's look at his argument more closely. He argues that violence is any act that violates the integrity or safety of a person.
Okay, that's a broad definition, but I'll go with it.
If I punch you, I damage your physical safety. We all agree that's violence. But if I run a subtle 6-month smear campaign against you that destroys your professional reputation, gets you passed over for a promotion, gets you fired, and makes you essentially unemployable in your industry, have I not damaged your safety? Have I not, in a very real way, taken food out of your mouth and your family's mouth?
When you put it that way.
Yeah.
If you destroy my ability to pay my mortgage, that is an attack on my fundamental security, my survival.
Exactly. It is a psychological and economic assault. It empowers the gossiper while completely disempowering the target. It's an asymmetric attack, and that's what makes it so insidious.
And it's insidious because often the target doesn't even know it's happening until it's too late.
That is the behind-the-back attacker concept from Turner and Weed's research. They argue it's the most dangerous type of workplace conflict. If you scream at me in a meeting, at least I know where we stand, I can see the threat, I can defend myself.
Right, I can scream back, or I can go to HR, it's out in the open.
But if you systematically undermine me to our boss over the course of 6 months, smiling to my face the whole time, and I only find out when I get the pink slip. I never had a chance to defend myself. I was shot in the back. That is why it feels like a profound violation.
So let's break down the why in the office, because people aren't just doing this because they're evil, they're getting something out of it.
Yeah.
The research we looked at lists the 4 powers of the gossiper. I found this matrix really, really helpful to spot what's actually happening in a meeting or on a Slack channel.
It helps you decode the political game being played. The first one is the most obvious: coercive power.
This is the mean girls dynamic, right? Fear-based power.
Essentially, the listener hears the gossiper tearing Susan from accounting apart and thinks, if they're tearing Susan apart to me, they will tear me apart to someone else if I cross them. The gossiper holds a threat over you. You have to stay on their good side to avoid becoming the next target.
It's a kind of social hostage situation. Laugh at my jokes about Susan or you're next on the chopping block.
Correct. Then on the flip side, you have reward power. This is the carrot, not the stick. The listener thinks, if I'm in this person's inner circle, they can help me. They can speak well of me to the right people. Being your friend has benefits.
I'll scratch your back if you scratch mine. It's about alliance building.
Yes. Then there is expert power. And this is a really interesting one. This is purely about information. In so many companies, the official communication channels are slow, or they're sanitized corporate speak.
Oh, totally. The official company email says, we're undergoing a strategic restructuring, but the gossip on the grapevine says layoffs are starting on the 3rd floor on Tuesday.
Exactly. The person who knows the real story, who has the inside scoop, has expert power. They become the go-to source for what's actually happening. They hold the keys to the truth, and that gives them immense influence.
And the last one. This one felt the most complex. Referent power.
It's the trickiest one, because it's about status and identity. Being in the loop makes you feel special. If the CEO's executive assistant pulls you aside and whispers a secret about an upcoming merger, you feel elevated. You feel like an insider. That gives the gossiper power over your self-esteem.
But there's a trap here, right? Because while I might feel special in that moment hearing the secret, do I actually trust the person telling me more, or do I trust them less?
That is the great paradox of the gossiper, and we'll get to that later. But in the moment, yes, it feels like power. It feels like inclusion. For managers, though, this whole dynamic is a complete nightmare.
And yet, I was surprised to see that some middle managers actually seem to prefer the grapevine to official channels.
It's the managerial dilemma. A study by Harcourt, Richardson, and Wadier found that many middle managers secretly believe the grapevine is faster, more detailed, and more honest than official reports from upstairs.
If you want to know if team morale is actually low, don't read the sanitized HR survey. Listen to what people are saying in the lunchroom.
It's a fine line they have to walk. If you, as a manager, participate too much in the gossip, you lose respect and authority. But if you ignore it completely, you lose touch with the reality of your own team. You become the last to know.
So we've covered the deep biological wiring and the modern office politics. But I want to go deeper still. I want to talk about the morality of this. Because it feels like every major religion and ethical system on the planet has a very, very strong opinion on gossip.
They do. And this is section 4, the ethics of the tongue. And what I was struck by is how visceral and powerful the imagery is. We aren't just talking about bad manners here. We're talking about a kind of spiritual rot.
Let's start with Judaism. I was reading about the concept of lashon hara.
Yes, lashon hara, which translates to the evil tongue.
Now, I always assumed that the sin of gossip was fundamentally about lying. You know, thou shalt not bear false witness, slander, spreading things that aren't true.
That's the common misconception, and it's a really important distinction. Slander, which is lying, is forbidden, but lashon hara is distinct. It refers to speech that is derogatory or damaging to another person, even if it is 100% true.
Wait, hold on. Say that again. Even if it's true.
Yes. In this ethical framework, truth is not a defense.
But that goes against everything in our modern Western sense of justice. I'm just telling the truth is our go-to defense for everything.
Judaism argues that the truth of the statement doesn't justify the damage it does to human dignity. If I tell everyone in our community that you struggled with a gambling debt 10 years ago and it's completely true, what good purpose does that serve now? It only serves to humble you, to shame you, to damage your current standing. The fact that it's true, in a way, makes it more damaging, not less, because you can't deny it.
That is a really, really high bar. It demands that we ask not just, is this true, but is this necessary? Is this helpful?
Precisely. The proverb quoted in the source text is just perfect. The words of a gossip are like choice morsels. They go down to a man's innermost parts.
Choice morsels.
Yeah.
That is such a perfect description of what it feels like. It feels like a delicious, forbidden piece of candy.
It satisfies a hunger. But the question is, what kind of hunger is it? And the text suggests it's a dirty hunger.
And then we move to Islam, and the imagery gets even more intense, even more graphic.
It gets horrific, honestly. In the Quran, the act of backbiting, which is known as ghibah, is equated to, and this is a direct quote, eating the flesh of one's dead brother.
Okay, that just stops you in your tracks. Eating the flesh of one's dead brother. What? Dead brother. What's the significance of that detail?
It's a brilliant and chilling metaphor for cowardice and violation. Why a dead brother? Because a dead person cannot defend themselves. They are absent. They are helpless. When you gossip about someone who isn't in the room, they are functionally dead to that conversation. They cannot explain the context. They cannot apologize. They cannot offer their side of the story. You are tearing apart their honor, their flesh, while they lie there, absent and helpless.
That really strips away any of the fun of it, doesn't it? It frames the gossiper not as a witty, in-the-know observer, but as a coward who attacks a corpse. A cannibal.
It frames it as a profound violation of the sanctity of the human being. And then Christianity has similar prohibitions. The Apostle Paul in Romans lists whisperers and backbiters in the same list as murderers and haters of God.
That's pretty serious company to be in.
It is, and the Baha'i faith takes it even further, if that's possible.
What did they say?
They call it the worst human quality and the most great sin, and the quote that stuck with me is, "Backbiting quencheth the light of the heart." It suggests that when you speak ill of others, you aren't just hurting them, you are dimming your own spiritual light. You are actively damaging your own soul.
So we have this near universal condemnation from the world's great ethical traditions. It's bad, it's cowardly, it's spiritual poison. But then, just as I was getting comfortable with that idea, the research notes threw a massive curveball at me. The blackmail paradox.
Yes. Walter Block. This is the philosophical hand grenade.
It really is. I had to read this section twice because my brain just rejected it at first. So Block, who is a libertarian economist and philosopher, argues that the blackmailer, a criminal, is ethically superior to the gossip.
Correct. Not as bad as, but actively superior.
That makes absolutely no sense on the surface. Blackmail is illegal. I can go to jail for it. Gossiping is just annoying. It's a bad habit. How can the actual criminal be the better person?
It all comes down to one crucial word: agency.
Hey, walk me through the logic. Okay, let's set up a scenario. Imagine I know a terrible, reputation-destroying secret about you. I am the blackmailer. I come to you privately and I say, I know what you did. Pay me $5,000 or I will tell everyone.
Okay, I hate you. You're extorting me, but I'm listening. In that transaction, as vile as it is, I am giving you a choice. I am giving you the option to buy my silence. You can perform a cost-benefit analysis. Is keeping this secret worth $5,000 to you? You have agency. You have a chance to control the outcome and stop the information from getting out.
Okay, I see that. I have a choice, however terrible.
Now let's reset. Imagine I am the gossip. I know the exact same secret. I don't ask you for anything. I just go to the office party on Friday night, and over drinks, I tell everyone, for free, just for the thrill of it.
And my life and career blow up.
Your life blows up. You had no warning. You had no chance to stop it. You were given zero agency in the destruction of your own reputation. The gossip unilaterally decided to ruin your life without giving you a vote.
So Block is saying the gossip is an ambush, a unilateral attack, while the blackmailer is a negotiation.
Yes. He argues that the blackmailer is at least engaging in a perverse form of voluntary transaction, whereas the gossip is engaging in pure, unadulterated destruction.
That is, it's logically sound, but it feels morally repulsive. I still feel like the blackmailer is worse because he's trying to profit from my pain.
And that's a valid counterargument. But Block's point isn't necessarily to defend the blackmailer. His point is to force us to ask, why do we treat the gossip so lightly? Why is this person who destroys lives without warning and for no reason other than their own entertainment just dismissed with light contempt as having a bad habit?
It's a challenge to our entire categorization of harmless sins versus actual crimes.
Precisely. It shakes things up.
Okay, let's pivot again, because we've thoroughly bashed gossip as a spiritual sin and a workplace weapon. But there is another lens here, a lens where gossip isn't a vice at all. It's actually a tool of resistance.
This is Section 5, the feminist perspective. And this is so crucial because, as we discussed right at the start, gossip has been historically branded as a woman's vice.
Yeah.
Feminist scholars like Deborah Jones come along and say, okay, let's lean into that. Let's look at why it became a female domain.
If you are locked out of all the official channels of power, what do? Where does your power come from?
Exactly. For centuries, for millennia, women were excluded from the public sphere. They couldn't be politicians, they couldn't be judges, they couldn't be priests. They had no formal institutional power. So where did they exercise influence? In the private sphere.
Mm-hmm.
Through talk, through their networks.
So gossip was their political channel, their news network, their judicial system.
It was. Jones calls it a female cultural event. It was a way to create and enforce social norms in a world where they couldn't write the laws. It was a way to validate their own experiences. If a husband was abusive, but the law wouldn't do anything about it, the women would talk. They would warn each other, stay away from him, make sure you're never alone with him, let's all support his wife. It was a survival network.
And sometimes it was more than just talk, right? The source material mentions rough music, which sounds like a punk band from the 80s, but I gather it was something else entirely in early modern England.
Rough music, or the Skimmington Ride. This is a fascinating piece of social history. This is when gossip wasn't just whispering. It could mobilize into a full-blown public ritual, a riot, basically.
A riot based on gossip.
Yes, if a member of the community was seen to be violating important social norms, say, a husband was known to be beating his wife, or a couple was engaged in open adultery, the community would take matters into their own hands. Often led by the gossips, the women of the village. They would gather outside the offender's house at night. They'd bang pots and pans, they'd blow horns, they would sing lewd, insulting songs detailing the person's transgressions. They would parade an effigy of the person through the street.
So it was weaponized public shaming, orchestrated by the community.
It was extrajudicial justice. The official male-dominated legal system might not punish the abuser, but the gossips would. They would use noise and shame and social pressure to make his life absolutely miserable until he changed his behavior.
There's this incredible story in the notes that illustrates this perfectly. The Tale of the Walking Mort.
The Tale of the Walking Mort. This is from a 1566 book by a man named Thomas Harmon. It's an amazing little snapshot.
So set the scene for us. What is a walking mort?
Okay. A walking mort was 16th century slang for a female wanderer. A vagrant, a beggar woman. So this woman, let's just call her the Mort, is propositioned by a local farmer. He asks her to meet him in his barn later that night.
For an illicit date.
A very illicit date. The farmer thinks he's getting lucky. He sneaks out of his house, away from his wife, and heads to the barn, probably feeling very pleased with himself.
But the Mort has a conscience. Or maybe a better plan.
She has a much better plan.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't go to the barn. She goes straight to the farmer's wife. She tells her everything. Your husband asked me to meet him in the barn at this time? She gossips.
So the wife decides to rally the troops.
She rallies the gossips. The text says she gathers 5 furious, sturdy, muffled gossips. I just love the word sturdy. These aren't fragile flowers. These are strong, capable women.
And muffled, so they're in disguise. Or just being quiet.
Likely. They're on a covert mission. So the farmer walks into the dark barn. He sees a figure he thinks is the Mort. He drops his trousers. The text says his hosen.
Oh no, this is not going to end well for him.
And suddenly, the trap is sprung. He is jumped by 6 angry women, his wife and her 5 sturdy gossips. And they proceed to give him a severe beating while his pants are literally down around his ankles.
Justice is served. Cold, hard justice.
But look at the function of the story. The gossips here are the heroes. They aren't malicious troublemakers. They are the upholders of the sanctity of marriage. They are the community's police force, correcting the bad behavior of the errant husband when no one else would.
It completely flips the script. We usually think of gossip as something that breaks up homes, but here, the network of women's gossip actually protected the home from an internal threat.
It shows that gossip can be a powerful check on power, especially on patriarchal power. It keeps people honest when they think no one is watching.
It reminds me so much of the whisper networks we heard about during the height of the #MeToo movement. Women in Hollywood or in tech or in publishing quietly warning other women about dangerous, powerful men in their industry because HR and the legal system wouldn't do anything.
That is the exact modern equivalent of the Godsibb network. When the formal system fails you, you turn to the informal whisper network for safety and for justice.
So we've arrived at the end of this journey. We've seen gossip as a biological necessity, as a workplace weapon, as a profound spiritual sin, and as a tool of feminist resistance. But I want to talk about the personal cost. Because despite all this utility, Nobody actually likes a gossip.
This is the likability paradox, and is the final cruel trap of gossip.
There was a study by Turner and his colleagues in 2003 regarding trust that really stood out.
Yes. This is so counterintuitive. We all want to hear the gossip. If I lean in and say, I have a secret about the boss, you want to know it, your brain lights up. But the study found that after you hear me tell the gossip, your trust in me goes down.
Even if we are close friends.
Even if we are close friends. The prior relationship does not protect the gossiper's reputation. Because logically, your brain makes a very simple calculation. If he is talking this way about Dave to me, how does he talk about me when I'm not here?
So the very act of trying to bond with you by sharing a secret actually erodes the bond in the long run.
It's a classic double-edged sword. You gain short-term attention and maybe some of that referent power, but you lose long-term respect and trust. The research is clear. People who are perceived as gossiping frequently are also perceived as having less social power and are less liked by their peers.
So we are evolutionarily hardwired to do it, but we are socially punished if we do it too much.
We're trapped in the middle. We have to do it to maintain our social world. But if we do it badly or too often, we get ejected from that same social world.
So let's try to wrap this up. What is the grand takeaway here? Because I feel like I can't just stop gossiping. My brain literally won't let me. But I also feel like I need to be much more careful about how I do it.
I think the takeaway is awareness. It's about intention. Gossip isn't just one thing. It's a spectrum of behaviors.
On one end of that spectrum, you have vocal grooming, you have bonding, sharing information for group cohesion, saying, I care about you, so I'm telling you this.
And on the other, far darker end, you have eating dead flesh. You have cowardly, selfish destruction for entertainment.
And somewhere in the middle, you have the invisible fence. You have the necessary, if sometimes unpleasant, act of regulating society and keeping people in line.
The goal, I think, is to become a conscious consumer and producer of gossip. To ask yourself before you speak, which one am I doing right now? Am I warning a friend about a real danger? Am I strengthening a bond? Or am I just getting a cheap thrill by destroying someone for sport?
Here is a final thought to chew on, a provocative question for you, the listener, to take with you.
Go for it.
If we actually succeeded in our moral quest to eliminate gossip, if we could wave a magic wand and make it impossible to talk about people who aren't present, would society even work?
It is a fascinating and slightly terrifying dystopian thought experiment.
If I couldn't warn you about the thief, about the predator, about the corrupt politician, if we couldn't check the power of the abusive boss through the whisper network,
We might lose our primary tool for protecting each other. We might lose the social glue that allows for trust and cooperation on a large scale. We might be cleaner spiritually, but we might be much more atomized and much more vulnerable.
or is the attempt to eradicate gossip actually an attempt to eradicate a fundamental part of human connection? Maybe the messiness, the choice morsels are the whole point.
Maybe we just need to learn how to be better gossips.
Better gossips, I like that. Sturdy gossips, like those women in the barn.
Defending the good, not just spreading the bad.
Exactly. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. My brain feels slightly rewired.
It was a genuine pleasure. It's a fascinating topic.
And to you, the listener, here is your challenge for the week. Observe your own conversations. Don't judge them. Don't try to change them. Just watch them. Are you grooming? Are you warning? Or are you eating choice morsels? Pay attention. You might be surprised by who you are when you think no one else is listening.
Until next time.
See you then.